Have you ever felt that big, powerful urge to make a difference, but then you look around and you just feel completely overwhelmed by how huge the world's problems are? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the work of John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins and give you a really practical guide for turning that desire into actual real-world action. Let's dive in. It's so easy to get bogged down by the headlines, right? Just this constant stream of bad news that can make you feel pretty small, pretty insignificant. But what if that feeling of powerlessness is just a myth? What if changing the world isn't about fixing everything all at once, but about focusing on one small, meaningful thing? You've probably heard that story, right? The person walking along a beach, just covered in starfish, throwing them back in one by one. Someone comes up and says, "What are you doing? You can't possibly save them all." And the person picks up another one, throws it in, and says, "Well, it made a difference to that one." That right there, that's the heart of what we're talking about today. It's not about saving the whole world in one go. It's about finding your starfish. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to help you find your personal spark. Then, we'll talk about how to build that spark into a real fire. After that, we need to figure out how to fuel that movement so it keeps burning bright. And finally, and this is crucial, we'll look at how to actually know if you're making a difference. So, where do we start this whole journey? Well, it all begins with that one hopeful idea. We're calling it your spark. And this is an internal shift, you know? It's something that has to happen inside your head before anything can change out there in the world. It's all about switching your mindset from I can't to I can. The mindset we're talking about is something called courageous hope. And look, this isn't just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. No, this is an active, conscious choice to believe that what you do matters, even when the odds feel stacked against you. It's the engine that's going to keep you going when things get tough. But, you know, hope by itself isn't quite enough. You've got to point it at something that genuinely means something to you. This isn't about just jumping on the cause of the week. You got to look inward. Ask yourself, what makes you angry? What breaks your heart? And what are you uniquely good at? The answers to those questions, that's where you're going to find your mission. So here it is, your personal catalyst checklist. Seriously, take a second and really think about this. What are your unique talents? Where can you, and only you, add real value? What have you already succeeded at that you can build on? And here's the big one. What is the one thing you're so passionate about you just can't stand by and do nothing? That, my friends, is your spark. All right, moving on to part 2. Build your fire. Because a spark, as powerful as it is also kind of fragile on its own. To create real change, real light, it needs to join with other sparks. It needs community. Let me tell you a quick story about a guy named Sam Yoder. So, it's March 2020, and his business in Ohio is just grinding to a halt. He's got 100 people on his team, and he's literally having sleepless nights wondering how he's going to keep them employed. And this is where things get really interesting. See, Sam's company had the people, but no work. Meanwhile, a local printing company had all the materials for face shields, but no one to put them together. So they joined forces. They created what Maxwell and Hoskins call a transformation team, a group that comes together to solve a problem that nobody could fix alone. And the result? They were cranking out 35,000 face shields a day for frontline workers. Now that is the power of a team. So, how do you build your own transformation team? Well, first, just look around. Who's already working on the things you care about? See if you can join them. If you can't find anyone, then it's time to become a recruiter. Talk to your friends, your family, your coworkers. Share your vision, your spark. You'd be amazed how many people are just waiting for someone like you to lead the way. Okay, on to our third section, fuel the movement. So you've found your spark, you've built your team, and you've got a fire going. Awesome. But how do you stop it from just burning out? Well, you need the right kind of fuel. Just take a look at this. You have 2 movements, Occupy Wall Street and the Civil Rights Movement, both fueled by an incredible amount of passion. But here's the thing, passion isn't enough. Occupy Wall Street didn't have clear goals or leadership, and it eventually just fizzled out. The Civil Rights Movement, on the other hand, had a crystal clear vision and strong organized leadership, and it created lasting, world-changing results. And the most important fuel of all, it's trust. And that trust is built on one thing and one thing only: good values. If a leader's actions don't line up with good values, then the whole movement is basically built on a foundation of sand. It's just not going to last. Let me tell you another quick but really powerful story about values. This is Renee. His brother was murdered, and he was completely consumed by one single idea: revenge. He was dead set on hunting down the man responsible and killing him. But then, something totally unexpected happened. He went through this values training program at his job, and he was introduced to this radical new idea: forgiveness. Now, it wasn't easy. It took a long time. But in the end, he made a choice. He chose to forgive the man who killed his brother. And with that one choice, he shattered a cycle of violence and started a brand new cycle of healing.
And listen, this isn't just some feel-good story. It's actually good business. A Guatemalan bank called Bantrab invested in values training for their entire staff. The result? A 20% increase in their financial portfolio. That's a massive return on investment. It just goes to show you that good values aren't just the right thing to do, they're the smart thing to do.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section: measuring your impact. Because, as we're about to see, feeling like you're doing good and actually doing good can be two very, very different things. So this is a tough lesson from Rob Hoskins himself. His team was pouring everything they had into fighting the HIV/AIDS epidemic in Swaziland. I mean, they were working around the clock. They felt great about the work they were doing. But then they looked at the data, and the data told a completely different story. Infection rates were actually climbing. It was a gut punch, for sure, but it led to this huge realization: feeling good is not the same as doing good. This is where the 5 Ds come into play. It's a simple but really powerful way to make sure your work is actually making a difference. First, you discover what the real needs are. Then you design a clear plan. You deploy it, document the results, and then you dream about what comes next. It's a constant loop of learning and improving. And it's so important to get this. This isn't a checklist you just run through once and you're done. It's a cycle. You discover, design, deploy, document, dream, and then you start all over again. Always reflecting, always learning, and always making your actions just a little bit better. And just like that, we've come full circle. We started out feeling overwhelmed, but now we've got a clear, actionable plan. You literally have the tools right now to find your spark, to build your fire, and to make a real, measurable difference. So the only question left is, what are you going to do about it? What's your starfish? What's your spark? What's the one small step you can take today to start changing your world?